Hey everyone, it's Miss Bell here from the Science Lab, and I am here working from home because it's super cold. I am wanting to talk to you guys about a new topic with your science class, and that is over tectonic plates. Kind of a mouthful with that, but it's a super cool topic to really learn about when you're learning about Earth and Earth's crust and all of the surface on the outside of Earth, because it's constantly moving. And what I mean by that is it takes millions and millions of years for Earth to look like how it currently looks. And that's because of the outside plates of Earth moving. Even if it's only a few inches a year, after a long period of time, you're going to start to see specific landforms due to all of these plates moving on Earth's surface. Now, when we talk about tectonic plates, that is just the lithosphere divided into these big chunks. And there are 7 major plates that include both oceans and continents. And I am mapping out the 7 major plates. That would be the North American plate, the South American plate, the Eurasian plate, Pacific plate, Antarctic plate, African plate, and the Indo-Australian plate. And each of these plates consists of oceanic material, which is more dense, and also continental material, which is less dense. Also in my map, I'm kind of coloring with like a gray color more of these minor plates. So the major plates are huge in size, and the minor plates are smaller in size, but they all are relevant and important when it comes to the movement of these tectonic plates. So take a look at my cars right here. I want you to notice which direction the cars are going. Right now my cars are facing each other and they are going toward each other. Now I turn my cars around and they are now driving away from each other in opposite directions. And last but not least, I kind of have them close to each other, side by side, but they're going in opposite directions. All 3 of these movements are super important in regards to tectonic plates. The first type of movement that I want to talk about is when 2 plates that are next to each other are moving toward each other. That means they are getting closer and closer. So they are like attracting, kind of like 2 magnets attract to each other. They're pushing together, they're colliding, they're coming together. And this will mean that those crust pieces are being destroyed because they are colliding with each other. And usually at a convergent boundary, that will end up creating mountain ranges and even volcanoes on land. So it might look like the Rocky Mountains, like that mountain range in our country, or it might look like all of the volcanoes on the western side of our country as well. And that's all due to convergent boundaries, that movement of 2 plates coming close to each other. Now, if those volcanoes are on the edge of a continent, that is due to what we call subduction, where oceanic crust is coming toward continental crust. Now, oceanic crust is denser, so as those two plates come together, the oceanic crust is going to sink below the continental crust because oceanic crust is denser, continental crust is less dense. So whatever is denser is going to go underneath. And as those two plates merge and come together, then eventually that will create volcanoes on that land. And usually that's on the edge of a continent. Now the opposite can be said when you're talking about the movement of divergent. That just means instead of the plates coming closer together like convergent, it's the complete opposite. They're being pulled apart. So two plates that are side by side and next to each other, it's kind of being divided. It's going in opposite directions. And on land, this can create a rift valley because of that separation and that pulling apart. And underwater with continental plates, that can create a mid-ocean ridge. On land, not only can it create a rift valley, but it can also create a gorge, which is almost like a canyon. Now, when these mid-ocean ridges are created because of the divergent moving, that is what we call seafloor spreading. The bottom of the ocean is spreading apart so that new crust can be created. And so when you think about divergent, just think about it being divided and two plates going in opposite directions. The third and final type of movement I want to talk about is called transform. This means that you have two plates that are adjacent and side by side. Now they're not moving toward each other. They're not moving away from each other. Instead, they're sliding against each other. And this sliding causes a lot of scraping because they're basically rubbing up against each other. All of this scraping and sliding causes tons and tons of friction. And because of this friction that can happen very, very quickly, it can cause catastrophic earthquakes in specific areas where a transform motion is happening. Not only earthquakes, but an earthquake can also lead to a mudslide, and that is extremely dangerous to the people living in an area that is known to have mudslides. Now, because these two crusts are not coming toward each other or away from each other, that just means that neither crust is being destroyed or created. So nothing new like mountains or volcanoes, and nothing is destroyed, so it's not creating like a rift or a gorge. And you can find transform motions and movements in California, like their well-known San Andreas Fault, and in the Ring of Fire, which can be found in the Pacific Plate. So I want to show you an activity that you can do at home which can help you remember these three movements. Now remember, Earth's outer surface has been shaped and made to look how it does today due to the movement of these tectonic plates. So all of these changes are from the movement of these plates. So I'm going to use plates from my daughter's kitchen set and her slime jar, and by using those two items, I'm going to show you what it looks like with these three movements. The first movement I'm going to show you is divergent. So think of it as dividing. Remember, they're spreading apart. These two plates at the boundary are being separated away from each other. And that can cause new crust to be formed, such as like seafloor spreading and mid-ocean ridge, or it can create almost like what looks like a big crack, like a rift valley. Now the second movement I want to show you is convergent. Remember, this is two plates that are colliding at that boundary. They're being pulled together. They're getting closer and closer together. One version that we can see is kind of where those two plates are colliding upwards. They're both going up, so they're both creating like a mountain range. But we can also see another version where one goes underneath, one goes on top because of the different densities. The one on the bottom is more dense, the one on the top is less dense. One sinks below, one rises above, and at this subduction zone, that's where we see a lot of volcanoes being created on the edges of certain continents. This can also create ocean trenches, and remember, this is where the crust is kind of being destroyed. No new crust is being made. Instead, it's coming together, attracting together, and colliding. Now, the third movement I want to show you is the transform movement, and that is where they are sliding side by side. They're rubbing up against each other. One plate and another plate are next to each other, and they are causing a lot of friction. Remember, this crust is not being created or destroyed. Instead, it's just causing a lot of built-up friction, which would then create earthquakes and maybe even mudslides. Now, I'm using slime and plates, but you can also do this activity with, let's say, graham crackers and marshmallow fluff. You just need something ooey gooey to represent the asthenosphere, and you need something more sturdier and stiff to represent the plates that sit on top of the asthenosphere. So the very last thing I want to leave you guys with is a song. Yippee-doo! That's right, Miss Belle's gonna sing for you guys. Now, the song that I have come up with is to the tune of the Addams Family. So if you don't know it, I'm gonna hum it first, and then I'm gonna put some words and lyrics to it. So here we go. Da-na-na-na, 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 da-na-na-na. So that's kind of the tune to this song. So here's some words to go with it as far as tectonic plates. Here we go. Ready and go. Da-na-na-na, 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 da-na-na-na. Convergent is colliding, divergent is dividing, transform is sliding, three types of plate boundaries, da-na-na-na, 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 da-na-na-na. One more time. Here we go. And convergent is colliding, divergent is dividing, transform is sliding, three types of plate boundaries, da-na-na-na. Hey, that was pretty good. Da-na-na-na, 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 da-na-na-na. Thanks, guys. Bye.